We'll start with the prayers. Om Sahana Bhavato Sahanao Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are doing the Panchadasi, the 10th chapter, consisting of 26 verses. We have started this study of a very beautiful text, and this is primarily for very advanced seekers of Vedanta, and it consists of 15 chapters. We are doing the 10th chapter right now. This is the first chapter we are taking up for our study because it's a short chapter of only 26 verses. And it conveys to us a very deep meaning of our own real self. So this chapter is one of the primary texts of this whole 15 chapters, and very often taken for the students of Vedanta. In this chapter, we have finished the first 5 verses, and today we are going to start the 6th verse. Just to summarize what we are studying in this chapter, what we are studying in this chapter is our own real self, which is called as awareness or consciousness. The nature of this awareness is such that it can exist by itself. Very, very important point which comes out in this 10th chapter is our awareness or pure consciousness exists by itself independently without the medium of the body, mind, and the world. So this is the most important thing you should remember, that there is a nature of mind which I don't know, which by the end of this 26 verses, I would educate myself on this particular nature of mind. We normally take our body and mind as our real self. Throughout our life, we conduct our whole transactions in life as if we are this body. What Vidyaranya Swami is teaching us here is, we are not the body and mind, but we are something different than the body. If we are different than the body, what is it which we are? And the entire Vedantic study of the Upanishads teach us that there is something called as consciousness, which is the substratum for this entire universe. It is the substratum for this body, the mind, and for the whole universe to exist. That means, like we have space. So we all know that we all exist in space. Our body exists in space, our mind exists in space. The whole cosmos exists in space. Space is one of the 5 elements, and it is invisible. I cannot see the space with my eyes. I can just see some emptiness around me. But the real space, our eyes cannot perceive. Now, if we are able to realize and know this particular feature, there is something which is higher than space, which we are calling it as awareness. Much more, when we say higher in Vedanta, it means subtler. Like the gross body is subtler, the subtle body, the mind is subtler than the gross body. Then the Karana Shariram is much more subtler than the subtle body. And this awareness is a principle which is beyond the scope of even awareness. That means it is the subtlest beyond the three Sharirams. In Mandukya Upanishad, we studied just a previous text which we had taken for our study, that it is in this Turiyam consciousness, the entire three states are coming and going. The whole waker, dreamer, sleeper. Like we have in the space, the whole cosmos exists. The waker consciousness, the dreamer consciousness, the sleeper consciousness, all three of them, they are existing in this mega principle called as awareness or pure consciousness. And how does this happen? Exactly like a reflection in a mirror. This is how Vedanta describes the entire experiences which we have. Throughout the study of Panchadasi, we have to remember that the mind is a very, very subtle body. It's almost like a mirror. The thinnest substance, the shining substance which is there in a mirror, a similar substance is our mind. Very important fact we must realize. Normally we study Tattva Bodha, we say, okay, it's a subtle body. We still think it's like a gross body because we don't know what is a subtle body. So in higher texts of Vedanta, they describe this subtle body. Even in this Panchadasi, the third chapter, they describe this mind as shining as the mirror. And what does it shine? It shines the consciousness. It takes the reflection of the consciousness and then it energizes the body. So we are all energized by a principle of consciousness, and this principle is what we are trying to understand. What is the nature of this in this chapter 10? The fifth verse, let me go back to where we stopped. This is where we want to start today. The sixth verse is where we will begin. But a quick roundup of what we studied in the fifth verse. The fifth verse taught us that what is bondage and what is liberation. This is what we learned in the fifth chapter, in the fifth verse. Now, bondage means my identification with the body and mind as me. And what does the liberation means? Liberation means I do not identify with the body mind as me, but I identify with the pure awareness as me. This is how we should discriminate between bondage and liberation. Atma, identification with Atma is liberation or moksha, and which is Satyam, which means it is a principle which existed in the past, which exists now, and which will exist. The same nature will exist in future also. This is the only thing which is immortal. In the whole universe, it is immortal, it's nityaha. All those features which we have studied about Atma, we should recollect. It is ashabdam, asparsham, arupam, agandham. It doesn't have legs, it doesn't have hands. All these features of Atma we should recollect when we understand what is our real nature. It is not this body. The body is just a medium of transaction. And that is what if we identify with the body and mind, it is called as bondage. If we identify with the Atma, it is called as moksha. So the individual self and the supreme self. This is the second point we should come to. So first we understand what is Atma and Atma. Then we should understand there is an individual self which is called as Vyashti. Vyashti Shariram and Samashti Prapancha. Because unless and until we bring in the oneness between this Jiva and Ishvara, which is the controller of the entire Jagat, only then we will be able to free ourselves from this identification. There is a oneness which is there in this universe. The same Jiva is considered as the total self in the sleep state. That means the Jiva becomes the pure self, and that pure self is nothing else but the totality of the whole universe. If you understand like this, moksha becomes very simple, very easy to understand. So the goal of our study is to realize that there is a common principle which is called as Satchidananda or Satyam Jnanam Ananta. And how do I see this? How do I try to experience this? How do I try to have a clear knowledge of this? What we should do is understand our nature as pure awareness. Without the body, without the world. Then that is called as nirupadika status. Nirupadika means I am there. That is what we experience in sleep, correct? I am there, but I don't experience my body. I don't experience the world. So that is where we have to be very clear and say that is the real pure self, which the Upanishads and Panchadasi, this chapter number 10, is trying to reveal to me. This pure self, when the mind wakes up, the mind of an individual body, every individual body is got a mind attached to it. And when this mind wakes up in the morning, the pure consciousness, the pure self shines on the mind. And then the mind gets activated in the form of vrittis, thoughts. So this aspect has to be very clearly understood, because if you don't understand this, then the whole chapter will be difficult to pick up. So this subtle body, the mind, because of its nature, it can reflect the consciousness. And then what happens is that mind gets energized, and then the entire body gets energized. And then we conduct the whole transactions during the day. We see things, we act, when we act in the world, we have joy and sorrow. All of us. This is how Vedanta describes our whole life. So in the study of spiritual science, what we try to do is distinguish the nirupadika nature of myself without the body and mind, distinguish that compared to the waker I, the dreamer I, the sleeper I. And then what we say is, we negate the three features which we take ourselves as today, that is the waker I, dreamer I, the sleeper I, we negate that and we own up the pure consciousness. So with that background, now let's go to the sixth verse today. And here in the sixth verse, from here onwards, there are 5 verses, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, in each of these verses, what we are trying to do is trying to go deeper into our mind. We must understand clearly whatever we are now doing is trying to understand. We have to go from the external world to the internal, whatever is happening in our mind. And then understand the process of the transactions. So in this verse, aham ityabhimantaha yaha karta sau tasya sadhanam manastasya kriye antarbir vritti kramotihete. So what it says is that I am is the reflection which happens in my mind. Aham iti abhimanaha. Abhimana means what? Ego. Now, how is this ego born? That is what is the subject matter of this verse. We are going to study how the ego is born, how the ego resolves, and again it comes back in the morning, again it resolves. So this particular verse, 6, 7, 8 is all a study of the ego I. This ego I is also, when it functions, it gets divided. Now, before that, what we need to understand is mind is the instrument of action. See, I have a body and I have an instrument inside this body. And I am the indweller who uses this instrument called the mind primarily, because that is my main instrument through which all transactions happen. Karta Bhokta mind. And inside what is happening is what we have to understand. And the mind has got 2 types of modifications. We'll see that now. So in transactions, we should note there is a knower principle. This knower principle is called as pramata. And this pramata is housed inside this body. It is a reflection of the sakshi. So the first thing we should understand is pramata. Pramata means the knowing, the knower in this body. And then what happens? We have pramanam. Pramanam means knowing instrument. And pramayam means the known object. See, we are going to the level of knowledge. When we do the study of this particular verse and the following verses, in the entire Panchadasi, this particular aspect of knowership is very, very important. The whole Panchadasi, whenever we study Ananda, every chapter, we'll have to get to this level of understanding. So, pramata, pramanam, pramayam, and what is the process of knowing? The process of knowing is always through vrittis. Vritti means thoughts. So these are the factors which are involved in a transaction. Number one, pramata. Pramata means the subject I. Pramayam means the object. And pramanam means the instrument of the mind, or pramanam can be also the sense organs. And whenever this pramata, the knower in this body, the knower of this body, interacts with the world, then all this come into play. Who is a jiva? Yaha aham iti abhimanta jiva. That is what is they said in this verse. One who takes himself to be the ego is a jiva. Jiva is consciousness plus the mind together. It is not consciousness alone. Consciousness alone is called as sakshi. It is called as kutastha. It is called as Brahman. It is called as Atman. So there are different words we use for that pure consciousness. But that consciousness, when it reflects in the body, in the mind, becomes a pramata. So we must note, this is a technical term, pramata, pramanam, pramayam, these are all technical terms. We should learn to use them correctly. Because ultimately my objective is to go back to that pure sakshi. So in order to note and distinguish the sakshi from the ego I, we are doing this exercise. Karta asau. Karta asau means this I, which is a reflected consciousness, when it identifies with the body, it becomes the karta, the doer. And manas tasya sadhanam. What is the instrument for this karta? The mind is the instrument, both for recognition, both for cognitions and for actions. So I am is the ego, it is not the sakshi. Sakshi is something different. It is not inside the body, it is an external thing, but it is all pervading. Sakshi is the light of consciousness. It pervades the entire universe. It pervades the mind, it pervades the mic, it pervades the table, it pervades the everything. But when it shines in the mind, it is like a shadow which falls when we go outside. The sun is above us, our shadow falls on the ground automatically. So similarly, whenever the mind wakes up, the shadow of the sakshi falls in this body, which is called as the ego I, which is the small self. The higher self is called as sakshi. The lower self, which becomes a temporary knower in this body, through which we conduct our whole transaction during the day, is called as the small self. There is no connection between the material being and consciousness. Why? Because consciousness is of a different nature. It is spiritual in nature. Matter is of a different kind of nature. You cannot mix the two. There is no connection. That is why we say always that Atma is Asanga Chaitanyam. Asanga means it's never connected with anything in the universe. It's a different type of entity. We identify with the body, mind as a self, and therefore we suffer all our life. We forget that it is an instrument for cognition, recognition, and actions. That means I perceive the world through the eyes. So the body has got the five jnana indriyas. But I am not this jnana indriyas. I am something different than this. Like, for example, a light is there, tube light is there, it falls on the table. A table is inert, but it can reflect the light. It reflects, therefore, I am able to see the table. So consciousness is the illuminating principle, and it does not possess anything. It just illumines by itself. For example, the sunlight. Does anything happen? Is anything owned by the sunlight? Nothing. It just illumines the whole earth. So similarly, consciousness is something which illumines the body, mind, and the entire universe, but it does it all through the mind. That is one thing we always remember. We have done this nature of how the consciousness functions in the universe. We have seen in this in Dakshinamurti Stotram, in almost every text we have seen this. Tasya kriye antar bahihi kramastite. Mind is a subtle instrument. It is an inner instrument. It projects the thoughts. And why do these thoughts come? They come either because we are seeing something which is called cognition, or it comes because of our previous vasanas, which is our tendencies which we have brought in the mind in this birth. That could be another reason for the projections which happen in the mind, or it could be our past experiences in this birth in the form of memory. And inside, what is happening is, when the thoughts are flowing at a very rapid pace, at a lightning pace, these thoughts, they work inside us. You'll be amazed at the way the Vedas, they describe the human mind, because it's just a continuous thought flow. And what they really tell us is, the mind is only a thought flow which comes when the mind becomes active during the waking state. When we go to the sleep state, what happens? The mind becomes dormant. But the consciousness, the light of consciousness doesn't become dormant. It always shines. And that light is the light of Atma. This is how we should understand this verse. Impressions of continuity of thoughts is called the mind. One thought is not the mind. It is a continuous stream. See, suppose you start having an emotion of compassion or anger. These are all, even emotions are nothing but thoughts. Or you're thinking about a particular issue in the family or in the office. Continuously, there is a stream of thoughts which are going on. So when you, for example, when you pour pebbles from a big basket into the ground, because the pebbles are gross, it is not a continuous flow. You can see there are gaps in between. Whereas, suppose you pour oil or water from one container to another container, you pour it. Then there is a continuous flow of oil or water. So similarly, the thoughts are nothing but it is a continuous flow of one after the other. Continuous flow is the nature of our mind. And mind is the window for the world. When we open the window, what happens? We see the world in a manifest form. Because through the mind, all the 5 sense organs are open. The inputs from the world, they come into the sense organs and then they come into the mind. This is what is called as the opening of the window. The I, the reflection of that original consciousness, is called as ego, as called as pramata. It is already there. Then it starts interacting with the world and experiencing the world, which is through the process of pramana, pramayam. We have seen that pramata, pramanam, pramayam, they interact. That process is what is known as experience. So sensations of the body, impulses of the world, they all come in the form of thoughts in the mind. And this is exactly how experiences are gathered subjectively for each one of us. We experience not the objective reality, but we are experiencing a very, very subjective reality, because each one's experience is as per the thought modifications. So the moment I wake up, the I comes into the body, and immediately the whole world starts coming in. Space, time, objects, everything comes simultaneously. What happens when this mind closes in the sleep state? That is what is said in the right-hand side. The world becomes unmanifest, because this I, which was there, very prominent in the transaction time, during the waking time, that I becomes passive. So nobody experiences emotions in the deep sleep state. This I am, which is the reflection of sakshi, that itself becomes passive. So the source of aham is gone. The source of pramata is no more there, which is that ego. And what remains is the sakshi, the pure light of awareness. So we have to own up that light as my nature. This is what Vidyaranya wants us to explain to us through this through this one verse. You can see how much depth he has put inside this. So Triputi means pramata, pramanam, pramayam. What is pramata? Subject. What is pramayam? Object. And what is pramanam? It is the instrument, like the eyes. So the pramata through the eyes experiences the pramayam. And all these three, the common word for all Triputi, there is a common word which we use in Vedanta. Triputi means three. All the three are required for experience. And where is this truth hidden? It is hidden in that intellect. And how does it get hidden? Because this, I don't know the fact that this ego, is a false entity. That is where the starting point is. Ahamkara and mamakara, these are the two starting points, which are the projections of avidya. Very important point, technical point, but we must remember this. Because of the ignorance of that sakshi, the I comes into this body. I-ness, ahamkara comes into this body. What happens to a jnani when he gets this knowledge? Does he still have this ahamkara? Yes. He still has the ahamkara, but he has falsified this ahamkara, baditam. That is what we call it as baditam, negated. He says, okay, ahamkara is doing the job of actions as per the law of karma. So that actions keep on going, but the jnani says, I am the sakshi. So the mind has a tendency to dwell on something naturally. Whenever we see the world, the mind keeps on thinking about it. Right from morning to night, till you go to sleep, continuously the mind is thinking for each one of us. Nobody is different in this. You'll be amazed. Everybody has got, this is the way the structure of the human being is. And whenever we are trying to dwell on Atma, the consciousness, we are turning the directions completely 360 degrees. From the flow of external world of thoughts and cognitions, we are now taking the mind inward and trying to see what is the source of these cognitions and perceptions. The personhood means I, the individual, I am a doctor, I am a lawyer. This is all belongs to the ahamkara. It is not the truth. Who are you if you're not the doctor or a lawyer or a teacher or a businessman? Who are you? In sleep, who are you? That is what Vidyaranya is asking the question. So the personality in us is not the truth. What lies behind the personality, behind the ego thought, is the reality. The person is time bound. The reality, the awareness, ego is time bound, but awareness, consciousness is timeless. There is an entity which is in time, which is timeless, which is called as Atma, which is the inner core of mind. And that Atma is limitless. Whereas the personality and the person is available only during the waking state. The teacherhood, the lawyerhood, the brotherhood, the sonhood, the daughterhood, motherhood, fatherhood, all this is there only in the waking. They are not, they are only the pramata. They are not the original sakshi. Karmanya karmaya pashed akarmani cha karmayaha sabuddhiman manusheshu sayukta Krishna karma krita. Very beautiful verse, very, very important verse of the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Very tricky verse. This is one of the tricky verses. There are about 4 or 5 tricky verses in Bhagavad Gita. This is one of the trickiest verse. What does it say? One who recognizes inaction in action and action in inaction. He is a yogi, he is a wise man. And he is a true performer of all actions. It means that as sakshi, I am not in action. I am always a witness to all the actions. This is what we should understand. This is here this verse is quoting karmanya akarmanya yapashed. Who is the actor and the inactor? They are all at the mind level. But at the mind level is not my real nature. The one who is able to see both action and inaction, that means in action, at that time also I am there. In action also I am there as a witness. Now that person is a wise man. You become a doer when you want to possess and enjoy. But suppose you say, no, I don't want to possess anything in the world. Because anyway, if you study Vedanta very clearly, you will know that nobody possesses anything in the world. Possessions are there for international purposes. But really speaking, if you ask the question, do I possess anything? No. As Atma, you are asanga. But can we keep the mind quiet? No, it's not possible because the mind is a very vibrant entity. And this vibrant nature of the mind has a delusion, inbuilt delusion, that it is the doer. The only way to understand this delusion is keep the mind as an instrument. This is what Lord Krishna also told Arjuna. You are my instrument. You there means I am the sakshi. The mind, you, Arjuna, are the instrument. Be like an instrument and do your duty. Whatever you're supposed to do as per your prarabdha karma, as per dharma, let it, duties keep on happening. So for the pramana vyapara, pramata is important. Pramata means ego, the doer, karta, ahamkara, I. Without the I, you can't be a doer. That means in the sleep state, there is no doer principle. This is how we have to understand. Pramanam is the instrument which is the mind, or which has got the ability to contact. This mind is an instrument. Very, very important, vital instrument for all of us. Through this mind only we can cross over and go beyond the mind. And it is the vrittis, the thoughts in the mind, that is why it is called as pramanam. Every vritti is a pramanam. It gives us the knowledge of the car, it gives a knowledge of a table, knowledge of a person. All this is in the form of vrittis. And pramayam is the object outside. So three put together gives us the knowledge experience. Whenever we experience anything, it is always knowledge based. Dakshinamurti Stotram explains the same phenomena. We have done Dakshinamurti Stotram. I'm just reminding you, Nana Chit Ghadodarastitamaha Deepak Prabha Baswaram. That means the mind is the instrument for all of us, in which the light of consciousness is falling every day when we wake up. And then we gather knowledge of the world and again go back to sleep, and the whole world goes into unmanifest condition. You must be very clear about this process which is happening in us. Manifestation, unmanifestation. Manifestation, unmanifestation. The whole Vedanta is based on this fundamental point that the mind manifests the world, the mind unmanifests the world, and the sakshi is the one which is beyond the mind, which can see and which can witness both these processes which are going on. So the mind itself breaks down into the pramata, pramanam, the subject, instrument, and the pramayam. These are all the triputis. It is one principle which is the mind. This is how we should slowly try to understand the nature, the process by which knowledge is gathered in by the mind. So the first lesson is what? The pramata knower rises in the waking state and it resolves in the sleep state. This pramata by itself is jadam. It is I thought. Without the reflection of the consciousness, it cannot operate on its own. It can't even exist. So the second lesson is sakshi, consciousness principle, reveals this pramata every day for us. And the knowing process starts. And this is the third lesson is this sakshi reveals pramata, pramanam, and pramayam simultaneously, not one after the other. The moment we wake up, the whole triputi comes up alive for us. The whole world is open. Similarly, exactly like the dream. In the dream also, Whenever we go into a dream, the whole dream world opens up simultaneously. And then we experience the dream. Vedanta says, Jagrat is exactly like the dream. It is not a sequence, but it appears like a sequence. In the waking state, yes, you can put cause and effect relationship. But when you go beyond the waking state, the cause-effect relationship no longer exists. Then it becomes only as projection. Pratibodha viditam matam amrutatvam hi vindate. So this pratibodha means the consciousness which is there before the thought arises. We are going to study this thought process and the consciousness in Laghu Vakya Vritti in the next text which we'll be doing. A very beautiful analysis of the consciousness itself. So just in this, what we should remember is that consciousness or awareness is there before the thought arises. It is the awareness principle. If I can hold on to that awareness principle, then this whole process of pramata, pramanam, pramayam becomes clear. So the fourth lesson is what? It is the sakshi which blesses, means it reveals, it illumines. It makes the I thought in this mind known. Only when I wake up, I become aware of I, aham, correct? All of us, when do we experience aham? The moment I wake up, I experience aham. Aham means it is just a reflection in the intellect. Natural process. So vritti contacts the objects. The Chidabhasa means the reflected consciousness contacts the objects through the vritti, and then it reveals the object, which is called as pramayam. When the thought does not go as in sleep, the object is not revealed. Or, for example, object is very far away. The sakshi reveals directly the pramata and pramanam, and indirectly the sense objects. That means the I thought is illumined by consciousness directly. And this I thought then lends that consciousness which it has got from sakshi, it then lends it to the sense organs. Through the sense organs, the sense objects get revealed, which is called as pramayam. So this Brihadaranyaka Upanishad talks about very similar nature of how the fear also goes off once we know this process of knowledge. Taittiriya Upanishad explains the same process. Katha Upanishad says what is here is the invisible consciousness. And if you miss this consciousness, what happens is you are every minute you are going from change, one change to another change. That change is called as death. So suppose you hold on to consciousness and says this consciousness is the light in which there is the whole world, then there is no death for you. Very, very deep verse in Katha Upanishad. This verse comes in, very deep verse. Again, it reflects to us the knowledge of consciousness. It tells us, it reveals the nature of consciousness. So duality is a cause of sorrow. which is dwaitha. Dwaitha means duality. And that is what is called as bandha. Bandha means bondage. So throughout or as a waker, we are always in bondage. But the moment I come to the Atma level, the consciousness level, it becomes Advaita. And what Swami Vidyaranya wants to say is, Advaitam is the truth and Dvaitam is Mithya. Mind is a product of 5 elements. It is Jadam by nature. It needs a power to become sentient. This we have discussed before, how the mind itself becomes Karta and Karanam, Pramata, Pramanam and all that. So with this, what I will do is I will stop this with 6th verse, I will stop today. So in short, what we have learned today is the process of knowledge. How knowledge takes place and what is the importance of Triputi in our knowledge gathering process and in our experiences. 3 things are important. Pramata, the subject, which is the ego I, which is the shadow of the real self, which is a reflected abhasa. That is the pramata, the knower. It is not the actual knower. The actual knower is the consciousness. It only gets the property of knowership when it gets reflected in the mind. And the pramanam is the instrument, which is the mind. Pramayam is the objects in the world which gets revealed. And this happens continuously throughout life. This is what is verse number 7. Next week we will start verse number this is what is verse number 6. Next week we will give a description of the 7th verse. I will just introduce a little bit. The internal modifications of the mind takes the form of I. It makes him an agent. Agent means the doer. The external modifications assumes the form of this. So what is the difference? What do we call it as internal and what is out external? That is what we are going to see next week. See, when I look at the world with reference to the body only, I say it is internal or external. That is what Vidyaranya wants to say. Antaha and Bahihi, in the process of this whole experience which we have, what is aham and what is idam? Idam means this and aham means I. Aham is internal, it is the ego I, and idam means the external objects. The vrittis which are coming from outside are called as idam or external vrittis, whereas aham is the internal ego I. I'll continue this next week. So we are studying in these 4 verses. We are trying to understand the process of our experiences, because this is where he will use in the end of the chapter, he's going to use this process and say that ultimately the light of consciousness is always unaffected by whatever interactions are going on. Understand you are the light, and which is the illuminating factor, and let the body continue its actions as a doer, as an enjoyer. Okay, I will close this today. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachade Purnasya Purnamathaya Purnameva Vasishyade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. You can, there's no questions in the chat box today. Okay, so today we just did a simple verse. These are very difficult verses, so I'm going very slow in them so that you can take your mind deeper and deeper into the process of knowing. The whole of Panchadasi is based on this process of the mind and the vrittis. In advanced text, when you do the Laghu Vakya Vritti, and even in this text, we are going deeper and deeper, and the concept of vrittis has to be very, very clear. It will become slowly clear as we learn more and more verses. It will become more and more clear. Any questions today on what we discussed or any other topic? Yeah, Shama, please go ahead.
I am not sure really. I did have a lot of questions to begin with.
Yeah.
But towards the end of the class and after your meditation, I'm more or less kind of speechless. I'm just don't know where all my thoughts have disappeared. You know, honestly, it's just so amazing, so amazing. And, you know, coming so close to that one of the key thing which I picked up today and which really is, to me, looks like is the crucial problem in the way we process knowledge, you know, whether it's Shastra Gnanam or any Gnanam, is that it is through our mind, which is the instrument. But when it comes to, I think, the Atma Gnanam or Brahma Vidya, I think it's on a completely different realm. It's really yours.
Yes, it is.
It is not the mind, that instrument, you know.
Yes.
And it makes sense when you think about it, that how can you know the limitless through the limited mind? It's just not possible, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And in the meditation, it was just flowing, you know, how shall you see the limitless through the limited? How shall you see the ocean only through the waves, you know?
Yes.
You are looking at the waves, you know, how shall you see the timeless?
Exactly, yes. You got the point. You got the point.
Through time, it's beyond, it's just but even that little glimpse through your meditation, this one, I am probably going to sort of use this particular one, this audio, I will use it at least twice a day because it's just so effortless, you know. What I loved about it was today's meditation, that it was simply effortless. You have to do nothing at all. You just slip into it.
Exactly.
I don't know what you're doing, Shekhar-ji. What you're doing.
That is meditations. The meditation is very powerful, very, very powerful.
Yeah.
And you see, if you understand the technique of meditation, it's so simple and so easy. And you can remain, you know, you can remain in yourself. And this is what all the Indian scriptures are trying to reveal to us, that we are not the mind. And if I'm not the mind and this body, then who am I? I'm this awareness. And what is the nature of this awareness? It is pure existence. And this pure existence, if it is not conscious, then this existence is meaningless. And if consciousness is not happiness, then consciousness is not meaningless. And if happiness is not existent, then existent is meaningless. I'm trying to give you a very, very different concept now. Our nature is existence. And in this existence, there is consciousness. And in this consciousness is happiness. So all three put together is my real nature. And that is what the Veda is trying to teach us. Your real nature is this. And, in our blind belief of the world, we run behind the whole world for this happiness and joy and peace,
Today, I wish you hadn't terminated the meditation.
That's why I was thinking maybe I should have the question answer session before the meditation, and then take the meditation and then close for the night,
So beautiful. You just wanted to carry with you for at least some time.
Yeah. Anyway, you can do that personally. I suggest if you like these meditations, please use them. You can do it. All these are very simple meditations, but it's got a technique behind. You see, there is a methodology which is followed, and this methodology is nothing but it is the Veda.
It was just that key word, exit the mind. That is what completely did it. Just
let the mind not catch you. See.
Yeah, that's what the key.
This is what I have learned from Laghu Vakya Vritti. You see, the text of 18 verses. Yeah. This is the key there. He says, don't get caught up by another thought. Before the second thought arises, you hold on. And just remain there. That's all. Shankaracharya's, the best lesson which I have learned from Shankaracharya is this lesson. Just remain. When the last thought is there, let it just fall and hold on before the next thought arises. Practice this. This is a practice to be done in meditation. And Shankaracharya says, this is the truth. You will realize whatever the Veda is saying is 100% true. Yeah, anybody else has a question? Yeah.
Ramkumar.
Yeah, tell me, Ramkumar.
I want to know whether I'm correct or not. In Sushupti, there's no what you call that?
Pramata.
No pramayam, no pramana.
Yes.
But pramata is there in dormant state, correct?
It is in the dormant state, yes.
Yes. And in meditation, we have pramata, we have pramanam, and we have all the three pramata. But you try to negate yourself from pramayam to pramanam.
Yes, for all the three, you try to negate all the three and own up your pure consciousness.
And a jnani has pramayam, pramanam, but he doesn't have pramata.
You see, he has pramata also, but he doesn't give too much importance to the pramata anymore after jnanam.
Yeah. Okay.
See, that is the difference between jnani and us. We are all ajnanis. We take this ego I, which comes in the morning as soon as you get up. You think that ego I is the only thing which is me. And you carry the whole day thinking that you are the ego, you are the body, you are performing, you are the doer, you are the karta, bhokta, therefore you go after things, you go after so many, these are all delusions. In the third chapter of this Panchadasi, Vidyaranya clearly says, that this I thought which arises, on this I thought in this body is based on my thought. My house, my car, my children. So everything is based on this I thought. And the I thought is based on the body. So when this thought of I is not there, the my automatically goes away. So you have to ask the question, who is me without this I thought or this my thought? For all vyavahara, we use the I thought and my thought. But when it comes to the question, to ask really the question, who am I? At that time, you make the distinction and says, I am the awareness. I get this I thought when the body appears to me in the waking state. When the body disappears in the sleep state, I am there as awareness, consciousness, but this appearance has gone. Appearance of the body has gone. Appearance of the I thought has gone. The I thought is that pramata. So the pramata is something which comes and goes. It's in Sanskrit is called as agama pahi. It comes, it goes. It is an appearance, it disappears. But what is existence is awareness. Pure awareness is my real nature. So the entire Mandukya Upanishad becomes very easy now. The waker I is a Vishwa. It is just an ego I. It's just a coming and going. And suppose I'm a teacher, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer. All this is with reference to that I thought only. That I thought is in this body, and through this I thought I become a mother, I become a father, I become a teacher, all that the whole life is conducted on this I thought. Ramana Maharishi clearly asked this question, ask who is this I thought? What is this? Where is this I thought coming from? Ramana Maharishi's Upadesha Sara Saddarshanam clearly asked this question. Find out what is the source of this I thought. Vidyaranya is going in the same path. He is also following the same type of inquiry, but he is going about with pramata, pramanam, pramayam. He is describing it as a complete triputi and says without this triputi, there is no experience. And this triputi is something which comes and goes. Therefore, it is called as appearance. It is not real. What is never coming, never going is always there. And that is the awareness which is never coming and going. I am that awareness. That is the best, that is the way to learn. Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you. Overwhelmed.
Huh?
Overwhelmed. No words to speak.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Vijay, I have a question. Hello.
Yes.
Shikiji, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Shikiji, I have been thinking about this past few weeks. We were talking about these characters, good characters, bad characters, and our good thoughts and bad thoughts and all that. So, and during the meditation, I feel that the less you think about these thoughts, the easier it feels like. I just feel that these days is quite the opposite of how we used to feel. In past, we are like living our life, and then when we sleep, we are away from it, and the next day we enter the life. Now it's the other way around. I feel that the life is something, like what we learn is impermanent. We enter and then we come back to ourselves. We enter, we come back to ourselves. So the less important the life is, the least important I feel towards the character and the good and bad thoughts. Am I right to
Yeah,
put
you're
it this
right.
way?
You're right. You're absolutely in the right direction. That means you give less importance to all the thoughts which come to you, and you are owning up the pure awareness, which is my real nature.
Okay, yeah, because I was thinking it's something like yoga, we don't tense the body to go into the position. We relax the mind, then we get, we relax the body to go into the position. So in the same way, I feel that the less we think about, is this a good thought? Is this a bad thought? Should I be
Yes,
doing this?
don't
And
categorize the
yeah,
thought. Very important lesson in meditation is never try to categorize the thoughts as good thought or bad thought.
yes, yeah, that's what I feel.
Yes. No, that's correct. Yeah, Uma, you are absolutely right. The moment you start categorizing a thought, then you're getting involved with the thought.
Yes, yes.
And
Because
then what
today
happens is you get caught up in the thought.
yeah, exactly. Because today you mentioned, action in non-action. I was thinking that should I be doing something about it? But it feels better when I'm not doing anything about it.
Yes.
So that's why I'm asking this question.
Correct.
Yeah.
You
Okay,
see,
that's good.
yeah, good. You're right. You're on the right. Your thinking process is correct.
Okay, I'm glad I asked you, Shikhaji. Thank you.
Okay, very good. You see, these meditations are really, really helping everybody. I can see that, It clarifies a lot of doubts which we have. The moment we start understanding the nature of more and more about this awareness, it clears a lot of the doubts which we have been having for years together.
True.
Space is not one of the 5 elements. No, it is space is one of the 5 elements. Ether is not space. Okay, Akasha appears after the appearance of space. Space contains Akasha. Yeah, but the main thing is you should note that space and time must, you're saying matter is objects perceived. Okay, space, time must appear before objects can appear. They don't appear before, they appear together. Space, time, objects, they appear simultaneously. Like in dream, space, time, and objects appear simultaneously in dream. What Vedanta says is space, time, and objects, they appear simultaneously in the waking also. And this 3 together is called as Maya Shakti.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it is called as Maya. Maya means it is the power of this consciousness.
Yes, but Akasha is not the same as space. That you agree on. Akasha is not the same as space. Do you hear me?
No, Akasha is the same as space. Akasha in Sanskrit means space.
Okay.
It is space.
I'm not convinced about this. Okay.
You see, there are 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, space.
And where is time then? Time
Sorry?
and space. Where is time then?
Okay.
Yeah, time and space are one, and they are 2
Yes.
sides of one coin.
Yes, in science regards space, space and time. In science they regard space time as one principle, whereas in Vedanta, time is something which comes when the 5 elements are perceived together. There is no time in sleep.
Yeah.
There are no 5 elements perceived.
No, but I agree upon that. But time and space are not.
What Vedanta says about time? Time is a concept of the mind.
Of course, clear. But space as well.
Space comes in when you are identified with the body. This is how Vedanta breaks it. The moment I am identified with the mind, then time comes up. You think about this.
Yeah.
This needs a little bit of reflection.
It's
Time is born when thoughts are born.
No, clear, but that.
Space space manifests when you are identified with the body. When you are identified with the thoughts, time manifests. When you are identified with the body, space manifests. When you are not identified with the body or mind, there is no time, there is no space.
Oh, clear.
It's like the pot and the space within.
Yes.
Break the pot. Where is the space? It's
Yeah,
one
correct.
space.
There is only one space, but that is that is. But here is slightly more advanced than that. What we are talking about here is how is space born and how is time born.
Yeah.
So
the body and mind.
This is how Vedanta says time is born when you have a thought in your mind. But reflect on this. When you just meditate on this, when you don't have a thought, there is no concept of time.
Yeah.
Sleep is a very simple example. And in samadhi, what we are doing is, when I get rid of the thoughts, I am beyond time. And there is no space also. So Vedanta's concept of time and space is very, very advanced compared to what science can do. They all take the time and space as a part of consciousness, which is the witnessing principle of time and space. This is very advanced.
But as I understood it, is space is the nature of Akasha, and that's something
you can
else.
Call it nature. You can call it. You can call it nature.
You equalize that. Yeah. Okay. Now I get that. Yeah. I thought space. Okay, they arise simultaneously. That is clear.
Yes.
So that I was quite wrong. So it's not sequentially, but obviously simultaneously. But I assume that space and time appear together, and are the provider or the enabler of the appearance of the five elements, of which Akasha is the first one. But now, so I would say space is different from Akasha. But now you say, but the Panchadasi writes that the nature of Akasha is space, and now you equalize it. Yeah, then I get it. Yeah, okay.
Okay, you got the answer.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Yes, very good. Anybody else has any other question?
Shikaji.
Why bolo?
They say the best way to know the mind is to know that there is no mind.
It's a very high level question, actually.
Yes, you are right.
Then
Baba, you are telling the truth.
Enlightenment.
Just exit the mind, attend
you will know your mind the moment you get rid of the mind.
Yeah.
And why we say this is because mind is a false entity. It just comes and it goes. It is a phantom. It is a chaya. It is a shadow. Kathopanishad very beautifully describes this mind. And we are going to study this mind very, very, again and again I say about this Lagu Vakya Vritti, but we are going to study the mind again in the next text.
But the mind is in the body, isn't it?
You feel the mind is in the body, but the mind is outside the body. Yeah. The body is in the mind. It is the other way around. Because you see, Baubai, the thing is, mind is subtler than the body. Body is made up of food. Mind is made up of thoughts. is no mind without thoughts. So thought is subtler than the body. So whatever is subtle is the cause, and whatever is gross is the effect. So this is how we should understand Vedanta. Whatever is subtle is the cause, whatever is gross is the effect, is a product. So mind is in mind, only when your mind is there, you will be aware of your body. Are you clear on this?
Yeah, okay. Secondly, there's a saying that we are not the doer, but when we go to work, we do our karma. We are the doers, right?
Yeah. You are a doer, no problem. I mean, see, when we are doing karma means when you're doing action, you're a doer. That is what is called as pramata. You see, I am a doer of actions. That Vedanta says. Nobody says you're not a doer of actions. You know, you're running, you're eating, you're drinking, you're walking, you're painting, you're writing. All this is your actions are all done by the body. But what Vedanta says is the body is acting. The eyes are seeing, but you are saying, I am seeing. See, this is where you have to be very clear. That I, which you say that I am seeing, I am writing, is that a right statement is what Vedanta is asking. Is it true that the body is acting, the body is, and I am seeing the body acting? This is what you have to contemplate.
That is the problem because as you say, Lord say I'm the doer, but on the other hand, we are also doer too, right?
Yeah, you see, we are the doer till we know that I am the pure awareness, consciousness. Suppose you don't know I am pure Atma, then you are a doer only. There is no doubt about it. See, if you are a pure, whenever you say I am a doer, you are referring actually to the body. With reference to the body, you are saying I am the doer. Suppose you say you are referring not to the body, but to the Atma in the body, then you are not the doer.
Quite confusing.
Okay, anybody else has a question?
Mr. Shekhar, I have one question, which I think basically you were saying that mind is not real and all this, you know. But I just want to ask, there's this incident, something that happened, but the consciousness itself never react and never, it's like so cool and calm. It's super calm at the incident itself. But then the next day, the mind keep on repeating the whole episode with the subject matter.
Yeah, correct. That is a memory.
Yeah, but then it shouldn't. I mean, to me, I would say that it should. If I am the consciousness, and at the instant itself, there's no feeling, and that is super calm, really super calm. But the next few days, the whole thing, not only the memory, but the subject, the people, you know, keep on coming back. This is that. And to me, I find it interesting because if it is super calm, that its consciousness know that this is it shouldn't be reacting on that particular incident. But then the next few days it come back, then I find it kind of puzzle.
Yeah, you see, Jacqueline, what you should remember is mind is a recording instrument.
Yeah,
it's a recorder. It's like a mobile recorder. And suppose you leave the voice, you use the voice memo and it is recording the voice. It is, the mind is like that voice recorder, which is always on.
Yeah, it should stop, because
So unless until, how do you stop that? You see, that the question is there a methodology to stop that recording? There is no methodology because that is an instrument, So the mind is like a recording instrument. It records all the impressions which you gather. Suppose you see a movie, the impressions of the movie, you cannot get rid of it because you are watching the movie as the body, not as Atma.
Yeah, but I find interesting if, let's say, example, right? If I have reacted it strongly, right? Then I will find that the mind recording coming back is okay, but I did not react at all, and it was super calm, and the recording keep on coming. Then it's kind of like puzzle me.
Yeah, but that's what I'm explaining to you. That mind is what it recorded and it is playing back. But you are not the mind. What you have to say is, I am not the mind. Let the mind. And then what happens? The moment you say, I am not the mind and ignore the mind, it will go away.
Yeah, but interesting. It keep on coming back. I say, what is going on? I think it shouldn't be,
Yes.
But of course, it doesn't affect me. I mean, emotionally, it doesn't affect. But I just don't like that episode keep on coming back because I feel like I am consciousness and it should be erased right away. That if not.
Okay, now this is what is called as a vasana. It is called as impression which you have to experience in life.
Okay.
You can't get rid of it. Your body is born to experience this.
Okay. I mean, you are saying that the thing coming back, I mean,
yes, it is an impression. It has to, you have to go through those impressions and it will go away. And that is the reason why the body has taken birth.
It's automatic coming.
It is an automatic process which happens. It is, you see, for example, I don't like certain bad experiences which I've had in the past. I want to get rid of those memories, but I can't.
I mean, to me, that incident is not super big, but to me, I find it interesting.
No, I'm just giving you an example of people who have had bad experiences in life.
Yeah, to me,
and they want to get rid of it, but they can't. Then what we say in Vedanta is, it is the body which is going to go through these experiences. Ignore it, finish. That's all.
Of course, I ignore it, but I just thought that today I raised it out.
It's a good question. Very good.
The only thing is, the consciousness, there's no effect.
Yes.
There's none
As
effect.
consciousness, you just say that I am unattached. I am always. That is my nature. You see, even when you experience things, you say to yourself, these are all happening at the body and mind level, but it is in my presence, these are all happening.
Yeah. Okay.
You can't get rid of it.
Okay.
Appreciate.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much. We'll see next week. We'll continue with the 7th verse.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om. Thank you, Shekiji. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Shekiji. Good night.
Thank you, Rohit.